Welcome to Cirrius Talk. I'm your host, Greg Banks. Joining us today, I have Chad Anderson, the CEO of Cirrius Solutions, and Tim Harding, our Chief Operating Officer. Today, we're going to tackle the big Dreamforce announcement of Salesforce and OpenAI entering into a strategic partnership. What does this really mean, and what does it mean for the users of the platform? Thanks for joining us today. Let's dive right in. All right, welcome to Cirrius Talk. Tim and Chad, good to have you back. Let's dive right in today. Every week, we're talking about something in the world of AI, and these questions are truly hot off the press every week. It's moving faster than any of us imagine. At Dreamforce last week, the big announcement was Salesforce and OpenAI partner across enterprise work and commerce. Why is this announcement significant, and what does it mean?
Yeah, I think this was a good one, and not one that we were all expecting. I think we were expecting to see, Agentforce. We knew that was going to be a big topic of discussion, but was actually, me personally, was kind of surprised to see this. And, I think first it probably makes sense to break down, I don't know what you think, Chad, but maybe we break down what's in the release or in the announcement first from like a capability standpoint, and then really just a lot to unpack here, both in terms of use cases and value that these capabilities could open up, but then secondly, like what does this mean for Salesforce's larger strategy with AI agents, and how is this going to affect kind of the rest of the space, because we also have Agentforce agents, Slack agents, etc. So yeah, maybe we start with walking through kind of step by step what was actually announced. Chad, what really stood out to you, or maybe you want to walk through some of what was in the initial announcements?
Yeah, the top things that were announced were the Agentforce 360 apps in ChatGPT, allowing us to access Salesforce directly from ChatGPT. The next thing that came out was the instant checkout and Agentforce with Agentforce Commerce. I think that'll be super important. ChatGPT access from Slack. They also announced Codex from Slack and OpenAI in the Agentforce 360 platform. So we walk through these each one by one and talk about how they can help our customers.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out to me too is in the sessions that they had at Dreamforce, Sam Altman himself said he's really looking about making the tools that people are using every day at work better together. So it's, we got Salesforce has more market share in the CRM space than Apple does of the iPhone. Now we've got ChatGPT that has over 800 million users. It seems that Mark Benioff and Sam Altman saw this as a really big opportunity to meet a lot of users where they're at. And, I think each company has a slightly different play here. Obviously, I think ChatGPT is trying to get into that enterprise space where Anthropic has really carved out like a big piece for them. But I think Mark Benioff in Salesforce as well, really looking to take advantage of some of the massive projections of ChatGPT down the road. So we'll definitely get into that. So yeah, I think, it's kind of going from the top in terms of things that were announced, starting with Agentforce 360 apps in ChatGPT. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out. There was some demos at Dreamforce in terms of what this is. So for people out there, maybe kind of simply put, what's going to be available now is Agentforce 360 connector in ChatGPT, so you can reference standard objects from your Salesforce instance in ChatGPT. It can be somewhat grounded in that data. So if I need to reference, if I'm in the ChatGPT interface and I'm having a conversation in ChatGPT and I want to understand things about my opportunity pipeline, or if I want to understand something about work order, for example, what's going to be available now is to be able to pull some of that information into ChatGPT, which I think is a pretty exciting use case. Chad, I don't know what your thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you're in ChatGPT and you want to, ask questions about open opportunities or opportunities at risk, you're going to have access to all of the Salesforce data. I think the key to getting this right is segmenting your data and looking at what it has access to, keeping it secure, right? You don't want to share everything. And so I think the architecture around what ChatGPT has access to and then how you use it will be key to getting this right.
Yeah, I think something else that came out with the demos that were shared as well is being able to do Tableau visualizations inside of ChatGPT. And so tying those visualizations with your conversation ChatGPT could be pretty useful for a lot of users as well. So again, I think the devil's in the details. We'll still have to see like what this function actually looks like as it gets implemented, but this is going to be really good for grounding your ChatGPT and be able to reference CRM data. Maybe a little bit harder to tie to like specific actions or tools though, right? It's not, this should just open up standard object access. It's not going to allow you to do any action that you want in your Salesforce, which is a good thing, right? Like we want enterprise guardrails to prevent that from happening. And, I think that in terms of doing actions on your CRM data, seems like that's still a moat or a carve out for Agentforce right now compared to ChatGPT. What was your impressions on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the bottom line is I think this opens up more ways to solve problems. And I think to keep in mind that Salesforce does require zero data retention policies be in place. So your data is secure. But ultimately, I just believe you're going to be able to get smarter answers to the questions that you have directly based on the data that you have within Salesforce. So I think it'll be very valuable.
Yeah. And then I think that we're going to go a little bit out of order in terms of how we listed them, but I think, natural segue to the next component would be OpenAI and Agentforce 360 platform. And so really what this announcement was around, is available models within Agentforce 360 if you're building an Agentforce 360 agent. Anthropic has had their models available for a while. The 4.0 model, OpenAI ChatGPT 4.0, has been available for a long while in Agentforce 360. But what's been noticeably absent has been GPT-5 from being available in Agentforce 360. And from the press releases and announcements now, GPT-5 is going to be available in Agentforce 360. So I think that brings in one of the best, if not the best model out there to be able to be leveraged for Agentforce 360 now. So I think that could be a really huge added capability. I think the jury's still out, though, in terms of which GPT-5 model is available within Agentforce 360. Are you able to use GPT-5 Thinking, Mini, Nano? Is it just the standard GPT-5 where it switches between models? So I think a lot of consultants and admins are maybe waiting to see what that actually entails. That wasn't really clear from the announcement.
Yeah, one of the thoughts I had in this, I'm just thinking back over a couple of decades of working around CRM systems, that a lot of times when I was involved, we were taking clients from no CRM, no database to Salesforce and helping them understand the reason we collect data is that there are people in the field, there are conversations going on with our clients, and there are people that consume that information that helps make more informed decisions on what I need to do as a company to better serve, better sell to my customers. The quality of data has always been underlying in that, but the ability to access that data and simplify it down, give it to the right audience, present that data in a way that we can make a decision and move from it quick. The velocity of things has changed radically in the last 10 years. But what I love about this, a really, really hard thing is always getting clients to focus on the quality of their data. If there's ever been anything that's come along that will motivate you to do that, it's this. Because now your ability to find it, summarize it, and consume it's going to be so quick. You're going to be very motivated to make sure you're clearing out those things that don't matter to make an informed decision. That's what we ultimately always want our CRM system to do, is give leaders the ability to see the things they need to see to make the decisions they need to make.
Yeah, and I think that's really the moat that Salesforce is trying to position themselves around as, their business applications, now the Customer 360 clouds that all fall under Agentforce 360 is like your business proprietary data, your business brain, and your business workflows, how it does business. And then you also have Data 360 now within the Agent 360 umbrella, which is a place for you to pull together your data, not just from within the Salesforce 360 applications, but from across your entire business. Definitely seems to be where Salesforce is trying to carve their moat with all these different announcements. So kind of moving to the next one here was Instant Checkout and Agentforce Commerce. This one's pretty interesting. The instant checkout for OpenAI, kind of a newer feature. A lot of people in the space, including myself, see like just a ton of different use cases with that, and that being a really big area for OpenAI to expand usage with end users. Now with Agentforce Commerce being able to hook in, I think again just opens more doors. If you're a Salesforce shop and you're trying to meet end users, in this case customers that are leveraging ChatGPT over an 800 million user base, this is a pretty big announcement for anybody on the Commerce Cloud side. I don't know what your thoughts were, Chad.
Nope, I agree. I think it really streamlines their ability to look at products, search products, make the purchasing decision, and then purchase in-app. I mean, it streamlines everything they're doing, which I think will be super beneficial. So completely agree.
Yeah, and then next one here, ChatGPT and Slack. And so with this feature, being able to surface ChatGPT in the Slack user interface to summarize channels, to query and ask questions of ChatGPT directly within the Slack UI, help you draft responses within Slack channels. This one was a pretty interesting one because we also had an announcement of channel agents in Slack as well, which is a separate type of agent. And so interesting to see how this plays along with other types of agentic tools that Salesforce is really pushing. But definitely seems to be in line. Salesforce is trying to make Slack the operating system for your business, the agentic operating system of enterprises, and really meeting users in the space where they prefer to collaborate, which is Slack. And so I think this is kind of aligned with that vision and could open up a lot of use cases.
Completely agree. Yeah, the only thing I would add is I think this adds a lot of context for the LLM. So when you think about all the conversations you've had all week on a certain project or a topic, you can now access ChatGPT and the information that you're asking it. It also has all the context of those previous conversations, which I think will go a really long way in getting to the right answer faster.
Yeah. Along similar lines, then diving into next was Codex and Slack. So being able to, similar to ChatGPT and Slack, you're also now able to use Codex and Slack to use Slack channels for context and to be able to generate and work with code and collaborate with other users directly in the Slack user interface. I think it's no secret coding has been one of the hottest use cases for enterprises and AI. So this is a pretty interesting one. Codex has been a model and a tool that's been just gaining a ton of ground over the last couple of months. And now being able to have it in Slack, where a lot of enterprises has their development teams doing collaboration, where a lot of company or customers too also have a lot of joint customer channels with customers that they're working with. If you're like a B2B model, they're directly in Slack as well. So being able to use that as context for working with Codex could be really interesting. I think there's one more big thing to cover here, which is like, what does this actually mean for Salesforce strategy and how well are these going to play together for a while? So it's pretty interesting that Salesforce, they announced channel agents in Slack, and then you have Agentforce 360 agents within Agentforce. It can be embedded on your website, can be embedded on your portal. Now you have Salesforce and ChatGPT. Like, it would appear like this is great. It's opening up a lot of use cases, but also what is this going to do for customers if they're able to use ChatGPT instead of a channel agent? How long are these going to play nicely together? And what are some kind of key thoughts that maybe business leaders should have in mind if they're using all three?
So, yeah, I think the bottom line is that Salesforce is looking to be the orchestrator for all enterprise workflows. Looking at OpenAI, obviously they're a significant player in this space. And so by opening that door creates all kinds of opportunities for them to further kind of help with the automation across the business workflow with their data, with the OpenAI LLMs. It's just, really broadening the tool set that their users are allowed to use when trying to solve customer problems. So I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think they each have their own kind of, moat or specific area where they're really going to excel. And, I think if you look at it very simply, you've got Agentforce is going to be a much more governed, policy-aware agent that's directly in or on top of your CRM. That's for very specific actions, right? And that could be embedded in Slack, but if it's a very structured kind of workflow, and maybe it's if you go from like lower risk to higher risk use case, if it's a higher risk use case and it's got to be right almost all the time, Agentforce is going to be a better option. ChatGPT and Slack and your Salesforce within ChatGPT. ChatGPT outside of Agentforce 360, I think is great if you're doing general purpose reasoning, right? Now I can ground some of that general purpose reasoning if it's just like as in an internal co-pilot use case as a business user, and I'm trying to generate some material, but I want it grounded in some of my CRM data. I think great there. And then Slack really seems to be using channel agents where, it's not just context aware within Slack, but then having to execute actions or activities directly in the Slack UI as well. So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and what features are added to each one. But I think right now they each kind of have 3 clear roles, and you don't really have to pick between one of them. I think it really just depends on what use cases you're trying to get off the ground quick. But at the end of the day, I think it's a really positive thing for businesses, because if you've got OpenAI, Teams, or Enterprise today, and you've got Salesforce, you just had a whole bunch of doors opened with some pretty low-level, low-hanging fruit use cases to be able to get a little bit more value out of one or both very quickly. So I think it's good news all around.
Yeah, again, looking back over 10, 15 years of doing this, what I feel like happened is the complexity of a technology stack radically got simplified in this. The ability to collect this stuff where it might have been in 10 different systems 10 years ago. Today can be in 1 or 2, but it's all real-time accessible, no custom integration builds kind of thing. So a lot to be taken away. The bottom line is the playbook is thick. There's a lot of plays that you can execute in where this is going, but it's going to be really interesting to see this unfold. All right, guys, we got a few more hot takes to come at you with today. Just going to play off some of that news. These will all be overshadowed by Agentforce. Is Slack actually becoming the agentic OS front end for Salesforce?
Yeah, I think this is a big one. This is certainly what Salesforce is trying to position it as. I think it's still too early to tell. I don't know if I can give you a yes, no on this hot take. I think this is more of something to watch. But if you're bullish on Salesforce, you want this to be a yes, and we'll just have to see where it goes from here.
Good deal. Is Service Cloud being rebranded under Agentforce naming?
Yeah, I mean, Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, everything's being rebranded under the Agentforce 360 umbrella. Service Cloud falls under the Agentforce umbrella, but Service Cloud, as we know it today, still exists, will still continue to exist, be a top-tier kind of service CRM solution for customers.
There's no indication at this point that any of the major Service Cloud features we've grown to know and love are going away. This is just about branding, how it's named, and Agentforce being the lead play there, right?
Right, correct.
Okay,
yep.
Good deal. Can customers build agents that act directly from ChatGPT or Slack into Salesforce?
Yeah, I think this is one that is increasingly becoming more doable and more likely. So I think jury's still out in terms of ChatGPT into Salesforce, but in terms of Slack into Salesforce, absolutely yes, both with channel agents and Agentforce agents.
Last one today, is Data Cloud being folded into the Agentforce 360 story?
Yes, part of the announcement was that Data Cloud is now branded as Data 360. Add that to a long list of name changes across the Salesforce space. But I think it makes sense in terms of the strategic vision and kind of total package that Salesforce is trying to convey. Data 360 is fueling the AI agents with clean data, structured and unstructured data pulled from across your enterprise. So yes, it is. It's very much getting folded in there and really pitched as the fuel for your AI agents.
Yeah, I remember when Wave, I think was the name when it first came
Yep.
out.
Yep.
And it got renamed a couple of times, but it felt like Salesforce was doing all great things. The one thing that was outside their reach was big data, and they brought in Wave, and they've redone it a few times, and then integration with Lightning Connect and whatnot, and they got MuleSoft. This seems like the last big thing is now that I have all the data and I've got it all in one place. The problem with a lot of data is doing something with a lot of data. So this feels like it's bringing the house back small again. But man, Chad, good Lord, as a CEO of a company who's trying to keep up with the train, it feels like 6 months ago, Agentforce and Data Cloud got announced. And I remember announcements here at Cirrius was we're going to go get Data Cloud and get Agentforce certified. And that already feels like old news, right? The certifications. Yeah. I would hate to be in charge of all the paperwork rebranding at Salesforce. That can't be a fun time to be there. But this is a very exciting time to be on this train, guys. And I know it's hard to speculate on some of the things that aren't real clear yet. But appreciate you two coming on today and helping us cut through some of this. Thanks for your time today. I look forward to keeping this ball rolling in the next call.
Yeah, thanks, absolutely. Greg. Yep.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Special thanks to Tim and Chad for joining us today to talk about such a momentous announcement and what it means for all users in the space. We'd love to have you back next time as we dive deeper into the world of tech consulting and spotlight the latest news shaping the Salesforce ecosystem. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. Got questions or ideas for future episodes? Drop us a line at CirriusTalk@CirriusSolutions.com. You'll find the address in the show notes. Until next time, keep innovating.